So for the purpose of this video, I will also keep the settings that were used for each photo. And let's start by taking a look at this photo, for example. The tip that I have for you from here is not to photograph during sunrise, because this is obvious. This is the simplest thing that you can say about landscape photography. So yes, it's a photo done during sunrise, but the main idea is to keep the light only in the upper part and use the lower part that is in shadow like a separation. In this simple way you create depth and you create a much more interesting image. And you can also use the shadow area to kind of keep the eye in the upper part of the image. As you can see, the settings are pretty simple: f16, ISO 100, 35mm. And the reason for f16 is my way of being absolutely sure that this is sharp and this is also sharp. Let's move to the next image, and the reason for using 5.6 aperture at 155mm focal length, it's because I wanted to have a slightly blurred background. I want to create a better separation between the subject and the background. The reason for which I took this photo was the light that was coming only on the top of this pine tree covered in snow. So the tip from this photo is to watch the first rays of the sun hitting the pine trees in the forest. It can be something like this, or it can be forests like this in the background and having the light only on the tip of the pine trees, like in this case. But in this situation, I think it really gives a sense of Christmas, if you want, a festive tree, and I think it's a really interesting image. Now the next photo, I have some rocks that are emerging from fog and from mist. I think it's a really mystic moment. It's a really interesting moment to photograph. The tip is to be there and have patience, even though it's foggy, it's windy, it's cold. That moment when the rocks or the mountain or the peaks or the pine trees, whatever landscape formation is, that moment when it will reach out from the fog, that is the moment when you should photograph. Also during winter, because of the wind and the way snow falls on the ground, you can have these kind of shapes that can be used as interesting leading lines towards something. Now this is not probably the most interesting subject to use, but it's here just to prove a point. As you can see, it's really dark outside because I needed 30 seconds for this exposure. This is another 30-second exposure. This is after sunset, and the tip is there is no better moment to be outside after sunset than winter. The snow catches some really interesting colors. It becomes blue and purple and dark magenta in some cases. The scenery looks almost like a fairy tale. It's something that it looks so unique and so different. So my suggestion, my tip from this photo is to have patience and to have really thick clothes with you to be able to resist the cold and be there even after sunset. Again, this is an image shot during the night. If you follow my channel, you know that I'm not a nightscape photographer, but during winter, the way the snow reflects the moonlight, I think it creates some really serene and beautiful landscapes. You can look at this, and if you don't see the stars, you have the impression that this is an image shot during the day. I mean, even the shadows are pretty harsh. So it's kind of like a mind-boggling. As you can see, I have 25 exposure at ISO 640, so it's really dark outside. And I did this in order to keep the motion of the stars almost invisible. There is a slight motion, but very, very small. And the final tip is to use a drone. During winter you have this really beautiful opportunities. This example includes a really winding road, and there's a really big contrast between the forest and the road itself. Now I hope these 7 tips were useful to you, and you can also add your comment below. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel, and you can further support me by buying one of my editing courses. The link is in the description of this video. Until next time, keep on photographing, because it's the only way that you can get better.